About 500 years ago, actually in the Anno Domini 1502 if I recall correctly, a secret gathering took place in a remote chapel within the distant province of Translandia. A dozen of women and men formed a pact, a society of a kind, an underground culture that echoed around the world in centuries to come. That secret congregation has been historically referred to as a bee.
Thank you, Vlad, on the history lesson and on brushing up on your moments from the past. Yeah, that was the event that actually inspired a few beats on my Uncivilised Grooves sampling library. I will be the host today, and my name is Oksabian, also known as Z Time. And the B Mass instrumental that I did, the original idea was to create a cinematic style movie game inspired rap hip hop beat. So in this first part of the BMS making of video, I'll talk about composition and arrangement ideas and processes that took place. The first thing what happened is I took BMS beat from the Uncivilised Groove sampling library, and I took those stems that I provided and I have lined it up and put them nicely so that I created a full beat. So the bass drums, the snares, the hi-hats, the percussions. And then I took the second one, which was the processed one. And then I took the third, which is then again original, slightly different one. And then the fourth, the processed ones. So I lined them all nicely up. And when I need to cut from them and take and chop and take the pieces to create. So let's start from the intro. Okay, I want to hear better. Let's get into groove. So in the intro part, I decided to use the elements which were kind of very prominent in the beat. So that was the percussion. So the first thing, that percussion was what brought the memory from that B Mass event that happened. So that was used, and it wasn't used a lot, it was used very sparingly and only a few times. And then we have this interesting hi-hat that and the percussion. They're kind of talking to each other. So what happens here, I play a lot with making the fades and the hi-hats and percussions. That original attack is actually taken away. These are all chopped from the sampling beat there, from the sampling library. So as you can see, I make a lot of these fades that make the hi-hats much less prominent. Even here I took, as you can see, a little bit of the attack I took away, and even there, and so on. So this is how I created this type of feel that it's kind of a little bit like dragging or kind of like brushing away type of thing. It kind of talks to me. So in the whole song, this has been used throughout in a different kind of ways. And when we look into the arrangement, after the intro, we are going into the theme number 1. The hi-hat changes a little bit, but basically just gets a little bit busier and a little bit more prominent. So actually, if you play from the intro, there is still at the beginning some dark voice that happens, as you can see it here. And then also the drone. So they are both kind of sparingly happening there and, you know, combining with each other. So first, and there's a drone coming in. Percussion plays, drone rises, another voice suspending, and the theme. And in the theme, what is important and what is nice, you can basically see that here happens viola pits that starts playing that theme. And that is the Amati viola from Cremona Quartet, which is absolutely great. And there I play a little bit with the rhythm that it kind of goes off and gives the final feeling of ta-ta-ta, that there's going to be quite a bit of syncopations going on. These are played instruments, all played, nothing is programmed, of course a little bit, you know, fine-tuned and changed, but all played instruments, and as you can see, the octaves are kind of coming in there as well and developing the theme. And pay attention on this little tiny percussion that is also been used, and it's again nicely faded, so there is like a little touch, but it plays on the offbeat and it gives that whop groove, whop, whop. Let's play the theme. So here there's a conversation going on between the hi-hats and actually the viola pits and the dark voices, and just kind of giving the rom kind of little accents there. There is a little nice moment here where the hi-hats are starting to play. There is the open hi-hat here, and it changes the rhythm. So they are kind of changing the rhythm, these hi-hats, and they're kind of giving the little somebody talking and playing, you know, supporting the idea of the changes of the rhythm, and a little bit of almost like a polyrhythmic in a sense, but within the beat. Good. What happened was I wanted this theme to be Eastern European kind of idea, where the whole event happened. In Translandia is invented name, but it's basically, you know, in kind of like a eastern parts of our Europe, where Vlad comes from in the story. And that was the reason for that. Viola pits. And it keeps on going to verse 1. Verse 1 continues. Okay, so what happens here, the idea was again to calm it down and bring the place for the rappers or singers, where they can really, you know, start doing their own grooves and things with their own words. I kept it very smooth. I started with introducing the MPC drums. Kind of keep the groove going on, and at the same time I cooled it off with the string, kind of like a pad string. I really like this. This is a very interesting and nice and very cheap library that is very useful. It's a Finspire strings, and I use those ones as a pad in this verse part. And introducing the orchestra here. So this is strings low Celli from Albion 3 Iseni from Spitfire Audio and Shorts. In verse 1b, there is a Aiseni basses coming in and playing with them. And with that also I'm introducing that very strong sounding bass drum from the sample itself, from the beat. And the bass comes in at the same time as well. And here you can see, actually it still stayed that there is a take 18 or I see in the bass. I play everything in and I play many takes and then I take the best ones. I try to keep the live feeling while I'm producing and composing. You know, I use MIDI and drawings every now and then, but I try to keep the playing going in. Even if it takes 18 takes, it's no problem. So let's talk a little bit about this. Is from the drum stems. This is from that original Uncivilised Grooves B-Mass beat. And here is that very strong sounding bass drum. But I cut the ends and I make them kind of shorter here. So they're not too long. As you can see, the others are muted. They are just bringing me that little pulse going on, what I need on the first beat, a little bit of heaviness, what I wanted. That. And then there is a second line and it's the same stuff going on. So they are little different lengths. This is shorter. So, and this is from the other sample, so it's a little bit different. So basically those heavy bass drums are added here so they can give me the oomph on the beats. And because I'm introducing the same place, the bass from the orchestra and the synth bass there under, so this gives me just a little extra bump, and together it kind of sounds. And again, orchestras, they are communicating with each other, and I'm using little suspension kind of break. There are no any types of fills or anything, so there is just a little, and starts again. And when it starts again in the second part of the verse 1b, I bring those very strong elements of the percussion from the B-Mass original sample. And what I did with those ones, I decided to make something more interesting. And I used, in the first line, it starts normal. And then in the second lane, I have chopped it up with a shaper. Shaper is a very beautiful plugin that I use from Cable Guys. And this is what it actually does in that second line. Pay attention on this purple part here when it comes. So it kind of talks, it kind of talks with the other. Basically what I have here is I have a filter and resonance in the shaper box that are basically doing that little rhythm. So the resonance little bit rises, touch rises, the slope, and the cutoff filter is basically made rhythmically how I felt, how I liked it there. So it sounds like, and I really like that because it gives a kind of a cool feeling in the whole, when you play it with the whole music, it gives a cool driving little feeling there. And sometimes when the things are not very tight, you know, when you listen to the solo, but that's the whole point. The point is when you listen everything together, how it blends with the other one. So nothing, it doesn't need to be perfect. You know, keep it live, you know, play the things in, let the dirt be there. You know, that's the most beautiful thing, you know, because that's where you get your own performances. When you're listening to your stems later on, like in solo, you can find all sorts of, you know, But those little mistakes and even tuning sometimes problems when they have in the orchestras and in live bands, that's all what actually creates the feeling and the live feeling. So that's one of the things that I really encourage you to. Don't be too tidy, let the things live by their own, and then when they're gelling together, later on in the music and in the arrangement, they will definitely, if it sounds good, it sounds good. You don't have to polish it. You don't have to polish it, more than to make it, fit perfectly how you want in the feeling there. And that was, how that shape for me fitted perfectly, even though it wasn't too tidy when it was in a solo. Good. So the live bass section here also has been added. The notes are played on the hardware, which is a Waldorf Blofeld hardware synth, which is just right here. This is how it sounds. Again, quite dirty. And I like that. That dirt there, again, brings to the charm of the instrument, and it feels perfectly and blends perfectly with everything else. And in the MPC, I'm adding here a little vocal percussion. And that basically constructs and makes the verse 1B. In the bridge, I decide to go one step further, and I drop. I drop it again to the main theme, and I let the artist decide how is he going to, play with it. Is he going to have their little melodies, little back vocals doing, or is he going to actually keep on doing some most important lines from his texts, or even the whole verses and still keep, the thing rolling. So there is quite a lot of option there. And I decided that I provide every instrument for the producer that they can chop up the ways they want it. So it all comes there separate, so you can move and take the themes and do whatever you want. And of course I also have a pre-mixed stems, and then of course the masters. So in this case they can easily take away the melody and have some other elements and so on. So in this second part of the bridge, in the last 4 bars, I'm actually rising the tension by bringing that offbeat hi-hat here as well. Here we go, and this is it. And again, little break for the tension for the chorus to happen. And here on that little section on the break, there is again from the sampling CD the snare that I like very much, playing those accents. After that, it's coming the chorus, chorus 1. Standard stuff again, we have the beats going on, there is a viola pizz playing. There is an extra little melody that is played by the instruments. In the chorus I decided that those bass drums would be now big and long. They're now long and strong, and the whole idea of these rhythms is so this section is here from the original sampling library, and it's cut from those beats, and then I'm adding on top the MPC beats, and that creates the whole beat like this. And the sample of the voice, yeah? And few effects. At the end of the section, I'm adding another element, to rise the tension, which is going to develop towards the end of the song. And that element is again from the album library, but this one from the album 1 from Spitfire Audio, and I use those strings to bring that little tension. So that kind of line. And then after the chorus 1 comes the theme 2. Again, dropping down, comes back the offbeat, and the beat comes in a little bit. And extra element. And back to the verse. There's this little extra element that is just kind of like a little low brass thing that adds to the deepness and kind of cinematic gaming kind of style of the tension as well. That comes from the Meteor, I believe is the UVI. Meteor, yeah, I loaded in the Falcon, but it's basically you can get it in the UVI workstation also working. It's a Meteor FX library from UVI, as it says here. Cool. And that also will then keep on, as you can see, playing and rising the beats towards the end as well. Okay, so arrangement continues, and the idea was now to basically keep the verses two similar, but give them the extra something going on in there. So and again, the percussion coming in, the strong one from original library. So it's similar, but it has a little bit more business in the bass, and the orchestra's playing from the beginning. Both cellos and basses are playing the lines a little bit maybe busier, and the bass is coming in and plays. And then there's also that Meteor low brass sound that happens and plays there in the place. And rhythmically, pretty much, similar things. I'm just adding an extra additional snare drums to kind of rise the feel there. So and hi-hats are much busier. And it's interesting to actually hear those drums together, how they feel and how they work with the MPC drums. There's the syncopes under every 4 bars, and sometimes stops on 8 bar. Okay, after that comes the verse 2B. Brings those percussion elements from the original library. And a bridge. And to the chorus. So in this bridge I basically dropped down. The idea was to keep it grooving, but kind of calming down. And goes to the last choruses. And here the bass is coming in and everything in the chorus Okay, in the last choruses, it's very simple. You rise the tension, you bring those low brasses, playing there on the beat, second beat in the bar, I believe. Then you have the bass, and then you have the viola pits doing those melodies, and they're a little bit changing just to rise the tension, these violas. And then there is again the Albion strings, which are playing those lines. Da-da-dum, da-da-da-bum-bum. And then in the last part of the chorus, I also play the same lines, the same notes. I'm doubling them with the Albion here from the viola pits. And last final closing big line on the strings. And here there is that little percussion that I used before, the off bit. It goes and keeps on rising. And it's always there also on the off bits. And the end. And from the arrangement point of view, as you can see, it's very simple. First comes the intro, then the theme 1, then the verse 1, A and B parts, then there is a bridge drop to the chorus 1, and after the chorus 1 there is a theme 2, which is a similar, same theme, but just the second time happening, verse 2, A and B, the bridge drop before the chorus, and the last double chorus. In the end, it ended up sounding like an epic, uplifting, orchestral, hip-hop, rap, R&B type of instrumental. And I also kind of titled the usage as "For Authentic Aspiring Artists, Finspire Uncivilised," because it starts from the Uncivilised Grooves library, the whole idea from the B-Mass. Thanks for watching, and please do subscribe. There are more things coming. In a part 2 I will be talking how do I prepare for mixing, and part 3 will probably cover the mixing process itself. Thanks a lot. Stay Finspired.